I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is the Readathon. And I'm here with a very special guest today. Special guest, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Rebecca. It's Mel Barrett from the In Between podcast.
So what's the In Between podcast about, Mel?
The In Between podcast is about, the first season is about the Pamela Smart accomplice to murder trial that happened in 1990. But future seasons and other episodes are going to be more about that gray area in between, sometimes right and wrong, in between our perception of how we see court cases and trials and things like that.
So I would say you're probably a very fitting guest to discuss the Karen Read case with. So have you been following the Karen Read case, and to what extent?
I have. I put the In Between, the first season out. It came out in October. I had already started sort of following because I was looking for those parallels between, I feel like there are a lot of parallels between the Pam Smart case and the Karen Read case. So I was paying very close attention. I was watching every motions hearing. I was watching every day of trial. I'm still, every time there's a motions hearing, every time they're in Bev's court, I'm watching.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching the commentary and I'm listening to the readathon and I'm trying to stay.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
That was what this podcast started as, because I was just telling Kevin about it every night for like an hour. And I was like, we should be recording this.
Yeah. No one knows what I'm talking about. So I'm so happy to be here with somebody who knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. And somebody who also, once I got in, I'm like, what do you think it is about this case that is so compelling to people like you and me?
For me, I'll speak for myself. I come from New England because I think it was such a puritanical society. I think women are often found guilty before they are actually guilty in a court of law. And I think that's similar. That's pretty much what's happening here. I think what shocked me, though, because I do want to believe in the justice system, and what shocked me is that I cannot help seeing this as a huge corruption case on the part of the Massachusetts State Police. And it freaks me out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If it can happen to Karen Read, it can happen to anybody.
It is a corruption case at like every level. I mean, there's the Norfolk County District Attorney's office. I mean, I think that, the culture of the policing in that part of the state really is, driven by prosecutorial decision making in some ways. Mm-hmm. And if you have a prosecutor who's willing to be loosey-goosey or whatever, the cops are going to be loosey-goosey because they want their cases to win at trial or whatever. So, and the Massachusetts State Police is fucked up. Like if you look at just Google Massachusetts State Police, there's like a news story about how they're not doing any of the recommendations for the training that were put in place. Anyway, they're probably going to be under, like, at some point in the future, I would be surprised if they were like taken over by the feds, like to do with bad school districts, But
then again, it's Massachusetts, and it's like, I'm sure you've seen those memes recently about the, ICE coming into Boston, and all the Bostonites like responding to that.
Yes.
It's the same mentality on this side too. It's like, well, you're not going to come in and tell us how to do things. This is the way it's always been done.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's pretty clear in this case that there's a lot of things in common with other cases that have happened. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the latest updates in the case that I have written down, and you can tell me anything that you think is important. But here's what I've got. Let's get started. Okay. There's a new article today about Turtle Boy / Aiden Carney. I don't know if you read it, Mel?
I haven't read the new one. No, I have not.
I will just say, folks listening to this, I'll link to it in the show notes. It is a very good, thorough read, and it is extremely consistent with my observations about him and experiences of him. Basically, the gist is he thinks Karen Read is guilty, and he will terrify and torture anybody who opposes him. So, I mean, not I don't want to say terrified. I think that witness intimidation things are totally bogus. But do you have thoughts about Turtle Boy?
Ooh, my thoughts are complicated.
Same.
I do not agree with his politics, and I don't agree with some of his tactics. But at the same time, if not for him, I wouldn't know about this case.
Yeah.
And not because I listened to Turtle Boy, but because he caused so much trouble, basically, in getting the story out. And he really did everything he could to get the story out. And because of him, I know about it.
Yeah.
However, I don't, if I met him in a bar or if I met him on the street, I probably wouldn't like him. And I don't think he'd like me very much. But it's journalism.
You might be surprised Okay, I'm just
Really?
gonna. I'm only gonna say
You
this.
know him better than I do.
No, but I don't agree with anything he does. I mean, like the 80% of what he does, like around this case in public, like in terms of putting his face up to the pizza shop window and like using the words like slut and whatever. Like I'm like no. I hate it. I hate his politics. He's anti-trans. He has like a lot of kind of abhorrent, weird views that are not in his alignment with what he says is his philosophy around freedom and being a good citizen, because he actually knows a lot about history. That being said, when I talk to him, he's one of those people where you're like, I don't like you, but I kind of like you. Like he's very charming and he's very disarming and he's very funny, which helps. You know what I mean? He's like one of those people. I'm not excusing it. I'm just telling you what my experience is with it. And
no, he's just like my uncles. Honestly.
All right. Let's leave it there then. Okay. So another thing that came up this week is that some smart internet people have discovered an interesting connection between Lieutenant Fanning of the Massachusetts State Police, aka the guy that was or was not, quote, in charge of the jury, and Colleen Crawford, who is the Commonwealth's tech expert who's been involved with all this video stuff. Apparently, they had a digital consulting firm together that apparently dissolved in February of 2022, of all times, which, by the way, for listeners who might not have made the connection, John O'Keefe died on January 29th, 2022. And Crawford, another thing that came out is Crawford has presented at a conference on software that adds and changes chyrons and timestamps on video and plays them real time on top of the software. Thoughts?
Yeah, big thoughts. I think I sent this to you earlier today, and you probably knew about it before I sent it to you, but I was listening to another creator's show about this case and was just like, wait a minute. And so I started to do some research. I got on Reddit. Colleen Crawford and Fanning had this company together, which, like you said, they dissolved after 2022, but they were also involved in the Fahey case. Do you know about the Fahey case?
No, tell me about that one.
I don't know. I can't get into detail because I wouldn't be able to tell you what actually happened, but a person was murdered and it happened at a bar in Boston. And Colleen Crawford went in and got the surveillance tape from this bar, all of it. And this is not, I can't verify this myself, but there was some manipulation of the video and Fanning was involved because they had that company together.
Yeah.
So if they've been doing it back since then, they're probably still doing it. That's, conjecture. But the idea that they shut this company down, it was right after John O'Keefe died.
2022.
It just seems like in this particular branch, there's so much corruption.
Yeah.
And when she gave the defense the runaround, when their experts came in, I mean, it's either an ego thing, like, oh, well, I own a data analyst forensics company and you're sending an expert in, I know more than you. So it could just be an ego thing.
Yeah.
Or it could just be like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Like we're in trouble.
It could be, or it could just be attempted delay. It was another tactic. So I would recommend that even if you're not on X or Twitter regularly, if people are at all on that platform, follow an account called Video Jesus. It's a very pro Karen Read account. It's not necessarily neutral, but that creator, that woman is a video expert, and she's broken down a lot of stuff and made me understand it better, including something the next topic involves. There have been some supplemental exhibits filed in Karen Read's extraordinary misconduct dismissal petition. So I don't know if you saw the hearing the other day. Judge Bev asked for the corrected Sally Port video. She wanted to see it going the right way. They've also included a photo of the rear taillight as it was after Michael Proctor had access to it, and a photo of the reconstructed taillight, and photos of pieces recovered at 34 Fairview. Because remember, the assertion is that she had a crack or a small piece missing from her taillight, and then the photos of it at trial are shown it completely missing. But then there's a big one. This motion accuses Brennan of playing manipulated video in court. Here's what it says from the filing. Screenshots establishing that the Commonwealth's Exhibit 2, which purports to show the interior Sally Port back wall camera was inverted on 1/1/2022, has a different colored chyron than the 1/29/22 inverted video produced to the defense in April of 2024 from the same camera. This discrepancy suggests manipulation and further underscores the prejudice to Ms. Read by the Commonwealth's destruction, yada, 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 yada. So there's some confusion here because this either points to the video that he played at that hearing being manipulated, or the video from court being manipulated. And Olivia Lambeau recently posted that the super blurry video they shared had the chyron in a different position than the original one. And that the trial video had yellow chyron from the Sally port. The one at trial had blue, and it was a very small blue chyron. And the one they showed in the hearing had yellow, and that yellow is the native color of the chyron and timestamps of those cameras. So the blue one, as shown at trial, this could be proof that could be actually proof it was manipulated. Thoughts?
I don't know where it came from this week. I'm sure you saw it, but the screenshots of when they put, oh God, what's his name? Brennan. When they put Brennan's, when he put his screen up. Yes. And he was showing all the stills.
Yes.
Did you happen to notice the tabs at the top of the screen that
yes.
were Photoshop AI? Photoshop was open. And it's just like, come on, you guys. You have to be smarter if you're going to do something stupid like this. I can't believe that at that moment at trial, when the entire world realized that video was inverted and that they had already gone through direct with Buchanan. And he said, this is it. This is the video. And then, Alan Jackson gets up and he asks him the question and they realize that it's flipped and Bev realizes that it's flipped. How did it not just end right there?
Right. That video to me should have been the whole game. It should have been
the whole game.
Yeah.
The whole game.
It should have been a mistrial. It should have been, they presented it as truth and they went up and lied. I mean, it's just a lie. If you say something knowingly that's not true, that's a lie. And I believe... It
wouldn't be the only lie.
No, but I also do believe, because it's in prior testimony, that Buchanan and Lally talked about that video before he questioned him. Of course they did. He was preparing as a witness. They prepare all their witnesses. Yeah, that's a big one for me. I think that it's more likely that the trial one was manipulated than this one that they just showed at this hearing, because Brennan is, I cannot figure this guy out at all. Like, what are your impressions of Brennan?
To me, he's doing it for... It feels like he's doing it for the money or the media. I'm not really sure.
Doing it for clicks?
I don't think his heart's in it. I think the last time he was, in the local media was when he was Whitey's lawyer. And I think that he seems like he's making a ton of rookie mistakes, like things I wouldn't even do, but the worst part about it is he's getting away with it because of Bev.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I'm really frustrated. I really try to give judges the benefit of the doubt.
Same. I'm still trying with Beverly Cannoni. It's really hard. I mean, she's making it hard.
You can see her bias. You can see the bias, and it's really anybody that's looking at it should be able to go, "Ooh, this doesn't feel right." No matter what side you're on, this doesn't feel right.
Do you agree with me that she's nicer to the women than she is to the men? Like, she's super nice to Elizabeth Little.
When you said that, no, I know when you said that, I had a little tiny bit of a different take. I understand what you're saying, but I read it as an older woman looking at a younger woman and treating her like a secretary.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Like, whenever she's like, I'm sure Miss Little has that. It's like, oh, Miss Little can find the papers real quick. Miss Little,
she can do the ladies' work. Yeah.
She supported all the male attorneys. So
and she's a partner in Jackson's firm, by the way. She's a partner.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But she's also young. But I understood and I agreed to some extent. But there's that little twinge in me where I was like, oh, she's a little condescending about it, though.
Yeah. Well, Brennan is very condescending all the time. It's interesting how he will opine. He'll just use an opportunity to talk, to say something that's not in evidence. And then that will become, for some reason, a real issue. I'm like, he didn't file anything. He didn't present anything. He literally just talked. And now Bev is pissed. I don't understand how that happens.
Breathless and about to have clutching her pearls. And I'm just like.
Literally breathless.
Literally. I didn't see that footage before I heard it. When he got up there and said, they paid Arca, blah, blah, blah. And I could hear when I was listening to the whatever replay it was, and I could hear her being like, and I could hear the paper shaking. And when I watched the video, it was so much worse. And I just was like, does she understand what she's selling to the world when we see her like this?
Right.
It's not a good look. It doesn't help the defense. I mean, it's definitely bias.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another filing that happened, speaking of Brennan, is his correct the record memo. Did you see this one?
This is the one that came out 2 days ago.
Yeah, this is the one where David Yannetti, according to Brennan, made some extrajudicial statements on court TV.
Court TV.
But it was actually just Zoom video of David Yannetti from court. And Brennan actually filed a memo saying in an oral argument, I provided a number of examples of extrajudicial statements. And basically he says, I was wrong. I mistakenly stated Attorney Yannetti's statement was an extrajudicial statement. My mistake was unintentional and regrettable. Thoughts?
Yeah. What makes me crazy about Brennan is that his hypocrisy, first of all. The fact that he's accusing the defense of getting up and talking about the Proctor text to Lally, talking about, I didn't listen to that asshole's closing and all that stuff, and basically saying, you know, the defense is giving out all this information to the public before we even go to trial. And he's doing the same thing by getting up and saying things that are not factual to the judge and making her start to think one way, and then correcting the record a week later.
Right.
The damage is done.
Yeah. The damage is done with Bev, because Bev, I hate to say it, Judge Cannoni does not seem to have a great long-term memory for detail.
Yeah, how did she forget that video? How did she forget the Sallyport video?
There's basic stuff from the trial that when they bring up, she's like, what page? What are we talking about? And I'm like, how do you not know what we're talking about? This is all that everyone was talking about, and I can't believe you weren't talking about it with your husband when you got home or whatever. It's wild. Couple other things that were filed and came out. Commonwealth has requested the transcripts and materials from Turtle Boy's witness intimidation case to show collusion with Reed, and they say that it implies, because Karen Reed was communicating with him, it implies her consciousness of guilt.
I just think they're stretching. I think they're reaching at this point. They're trying to figure out, they're looking for media. They're looking for press. They're looking for the story. So they're putting these things in writing, and they're getting up in court and wasting everybody's time with this kind of stuff, you know, and I'm sure that leads into the Betterow situation.
Yeah, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. So I don't understand how Karen Reed speaking with a journalist is bad for her at all.
Right.
If she's willing to talk about her case and willing to talk about what's happening, she's not the lawyer. She's not bringing any ethics. She doesn't have a gag order. The attorneys may have a gag order.
They have one now, yeah.
I know. But she does not have a gag order, and she's allowed to talk to the press. She's allowed to defend herself if she doesn't feel like she's being, if her story's getting out there the way that she wants it to.
Yeah.
This was, not to go back to Pam Smart, but one of the reasons why she was pilloried is because, she did all those interviews with Bill Spencer. And in her mind, she was trying to get the story out. She was trying to tell the truth. She was trying to explain what happened. And she was trying to defend, because they were saying that Greg Smart was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And, we'll get into that later. But it's the same thing. She's allowed to talk to the press, and it has nothing to do with her case.
Right.
In talking to Turtle Boy. He has his own thing about these witnesses, and he's, he does some stupid things like, what he did in the window at, was it Chris Albert's, the pizza place?
D&E Pizza.
Yeah. I mean, he's being dumb right now. He shouldn't be doing those kind of things.
No, he shouldn't.
It's just not helping anybody or himself.
He should be dialing it back, in my opinion, because he has the public approval for a large part, and he should now be behaving in a way that is kind of a beyond reproach or not. I mean, he's never going to be perfect. He's always going to swear. He's always going to say things that are offensive to some people, but he should let them come for him, which is what they were doing for months and months, attacking him on the street and so forth, and just continue to take video of what's happening around him. This filing, by the way, also accuses Karen's lawyers of talking to Turtle Boy with no evidence. Mm-hmm. No evidence. They just say that it's implied that it seems that, and it's that's not evidence. And it also, there's this whole lie, this untruth about how Turtle Boy's phone has not yet been analyzed. It has, because he has those materials from his disclosure in his own case. And they're like, no, a taint team had it, and now no one has looked at it. I'm like, literally, we've looked at it. He's posted photos of it on his Twitter. So it's public. It's public. So there's that, and there's also the Gretchen Voss situation. They also made a filing to unseal the Gretchen Voss materials. And this is in large part because of some, I think, recorded kind of casual conversation they were having around the interview. Again, I would not want to be an independent journalist in Massachusetts if my stuff was going to be disclosable in court cases.
I'll say I had no idea that was the case, and I lived in Massachusetts for 13 years, and I grew up in New England. I had no idea that they didn't have any. They had no protection. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Until this whole Gretchen Voss thing.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to rulings. There are a bunch of little rulings that came out, not necessarily little in consequence, but little in terms of page number. The first one we're going to talk about is one you mentioned earlier, Mark Betterow. He is a no. Judge Cannoni, after again, Hank Brennan made a speech in court with no evidentiary filings at the time, he said that he had this conflict of interest because he was also working with Turtle Boy, and it would allow them to share evidence with each other and collude. Yep. And Bev bought that, and she said no to him representing Karen Read in this case in Massachusetts, which to me is shocking because as far as I understand it, it's up to the defendant to decide on potential conflicts, not a judge.
That's my understanding too. And I mean, I would love to know the numbers and statistics of how many times an attorney from out of state has been turned down.
Yeah, I would like to know that too, especially an attorney. By the way, Betterow has receipts of other misconduct from Morrissey. I think they're worried about that maybe crossing over. He has those emails from Morrissey that show that extrajudicial communication after Matt McCabe's restraining order against Turtle Boy was denied, and then it was a whole thing. I have an earlier show about it if you want to go back. Not you, the other people. So essentially, it seems to me like he demonstrated in the filing, and so did Yannetti, that they had discussed the conflicts, that Karen was okay with the conflicts and they wanted to move forward, and that he was going to keep the two things separate. And the amount that Beverly Cannoni gives the Commonwealth side the benefit of the doubt when they say they're going to do something or follow some procedure and not the defense is wild to me.
Wild. I mean, and I feel like there was something that was said where he actually had both of his clients sign off on it too. They literally put their signatures on it and said, we have no issues with this. And he's a great lawyer too. And I don't know if you saw, he posted on X today. I'm not on X. I just heard about it, but he sort of posted a response. Betterow did.
Yeah.
And it was very heartfelt. And it was sort of just like, I don't understand this either, you guys.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. And I'm starting to wonder, I know that I know they're going to appeal if it doesn't go their way, but how many of these things are just stacking up against her?
Right.
Bev, I'm talking about Bev, obviously.
Yeah, judicial misconduct or judicial error appeal, right? Yeah. It would be under the judicial error, I think, probably. I don't know what the laws in Massachusetts are, but in New Hampshire, it would be judicial error. She made another confounding ruling, which is that I'm not surprised by it, but to me it is confounding. The Commonwealth dog expert, this guy Crosby, who wrote this thing that looks like a kid's book about dog bites, she's letting him testify about medical stuff when she has previously said an ARCA guy could not testify about body stuff because he wasn't a medical doctor. What are your thoughts on that?
The physicists.
Yeah.
The physicists couldn't testify because he wasn't a medical doctor. I mean, I owned a dog walking company for many years in Boston, and I have been bitten by many dogs, and they look exactly like the ones that John O'Keefe had on his arm. And I've been bitten by small dogs and big dogs. They're all the same. They leave the same sort of marks. I'm not an expert. I can just tell you I've been bitten by like 10 dogs and this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
But this guy getting on the stand, he has the same expertise as me, basically.
Yeah.
And he's definitely not a doctor. And she made that ruling. It just, you know what? It feels very much like our politics right now, which is there's nobody that can come in and police this.
Right.
The police are policing themselves. Bev is policing herself. She's doing whatever the hell she wants, but her arguments aren't good enough.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, another confounding filing, that forensically sound video file request from the defense, Judge Bev denied that request. And the defense is requesting consideration with an affidavit from their own video expert, Matthew Erickson. Yeah. But the idea that chain of custody forensically sound evidence would be like, no, you can't, that denied. It's, again, wild. Doesn't she want to see the forensically sound video?
Doesn't everyone want to see it? I mean, let's go back to the metadata for a second. When you can say, no, you don't get the metadata, that means A, she doesn't understand what metadata is, or B, she's just overtly siding with the Commonwealth on these. I mean, it's ridiculous. You should want to know where the video came from. You should want to be able to see the entire raw video. You should want to know if the Commonwealth has manipulated anything.
Right. I mean, if it were a real trial, if it were a normal trial, the Commonwealth would have showed a bunch of boring video. It would have been a long, boring ass video. Okay, now look here. This is happening. Now look here. This is happening. Be patient. It's coming in a minute. Like that's how it usually goes. They show, or they're supposed to be transparent and show stuff. And the video stuff to me in this case it's one of the things, And I think it was Alessi who said it perfectly. It's the cumulative. No, it was Jackson. It's the cumulative effect of all of these coincidences around video stuff.
Yeah,
it can't be real. It just can't be. And I'm a normal, logical person, but it cannot be. So speaking of what we're going to get to see and hear, there is a new order regarding media protocol and coverage of the next trial, and people on social media are being nutty about it, panicking about it. It's literally the exact same as the rules for the first trial. Pool camera, pool video, recognized journalist. And last time, Turtle Boy won and became a recognized journalist, so he's probably going to be able to be there. If he's not able to be there, he'll just report from the video stream like everyone else is doing.
Right. I think that was what everybody was sort of going crazy about, because some of the wording in the last motion, which nobody even knew was going to be a motion until she put it out, I think it made it sound like you're not allowed to stream.
Right.
So even if Court TV or whomever has that one camera in there, the rest of the world can't stream it and do commentary at the same time and blah, blah, blah. So I think a lot of these, some of the attorneys who have these live streams about the Karen Read trial, I think they were all just like, wait, what? Are we not going to be able to stream this
They can share
anymore?
pool video as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's what pool video is, right?
Yeah.
And the also, they can't stream live from the courtroom. I think that's what she was trying to say. And they can't.
No cell phones, all that.
Exactly. One of the things that Turtle Boy has done a couple of times, which is, this is when I say, like, I hate what he's doing, but it's also funny. Great example. He's been sitting in these hearings and you can see his laptop screen. He'll put something on his laptop screen in giant font so the camera can see it. It's like so obnoxious. But at the same time, you have to admit, kind of funny at the same time.
Kind of funny. I think that... was it Alessi that was doing that one day? He didn't have anything on his screen in big font, but I think Little was at the podium speaking, or at the dais speaking, and he had his sort of his tablet in front of her, and he was definitely like tilting it toward her to try to prompt her. It looked like he was definitely like,
here,
like,
let me read
go
this
to this
book.
one next. Ooh, I forgot my readers today.
Yeah. So let's talk briefly about that gag order. So Judge Canoni has ordered a gag order on the lawyers in this case. None of the lawyers appearing in the case shall release or authorize the release of information about this proceeding that a reasonable person would expect to be disseminated by any means of public communication. If the lawyer knows or reasonably should know, it will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing potential jurors or witnesses in this case. And there's two other points here, but basically it's a gag order saying you can't talk about stuff that isn't in the open courtroom to anyone. The lawyers can't.
On the steps, anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they can give answers. Yeah, I think they can, if someone asks a question, you're happy how it went in court today. I don't think, I don't read this like the gag order would apply to that. I read this as they can't talk about substantive stuff related to the case.
Oh, I think I read it that they weren't even allowed to like make statements on the steps.
We'll find out.
Maybe I read it wrong.
No, that's I think another interpretation of this. I could be reading it wrong, but I guess we'll find out when Jackson does or doesn't talk outside the court.
Right.
Because that guy's a talker.
Did you pay the ARCA experts? No.
Of course not. Of course not. I think this is a thing people don't understand. There's paying for testimony, which means you paid someone to do the exam, prepare the report, write the affidavit, submit it as a professional job. And there's paying for the logistics of testimony, such as travel and meals. That's what they did.
But they also received a bill for it that they weren't expecting, and they also got approval from the feds before they paid it.
Right.
So, come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Interestingly to me, and I'm going to recap with this, there was an interesting article that the Boston Bar Association put out yesterday, and it's being shared a lot, I think, because of this case. The headline is Lessons to be Learned from the First Cases of Discipline of Prosecutors for Failure to Disclose Exculpatory Material. And it addresses, among other things, a potential culture of misconduct that starts at the attorney's general level. And it says this: systemic failures are opportunities to learn rather than anomalies to ignore. In August of 2023, they just upheld this first bar discipline ever imposed against a prosecutor. So I will post a link to that article in the show notes, but I don't think the Bar Association was like, we got to put this out because of the Karen Read case, but the timing is fun in a way.
It is fun, but it's also like, are they talking about Lally or Brennan?
Yeah.
Because Brennan is a defense attorney and he's just winging this.
They're also, as Bev said, When one speaks, they speak for all. They are the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to coming that is coming up in this case?
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to the trial if it gets there. I mean, honestly, I was listening to or reading through the motions to dismiss, and I thought it was so strong. I'm interested to see the outcome of the habeas petition, and I'm also interested to hear a little bit more about Fanning and Colleen, because Fanning and a bunch of these guys, Buchanan and Tully and Proctor, they have their hands all over everything. And it's not just this case, it's the Sandra Birchmore case. And something's wrong there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just saying that because it's my opinion, but it's like what you were saying before. When you have all these coincidences, it just keeps stacking up.
Yeah.
You got to look into it. Something's going on there. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more about the video evidence. It seems like the defense is going to be calling a lot more people to the stand, which I'm like, are they calling Lally? Obviously they're going to call Proctor back. I would love to see Lally on the stand.
Yeah.
I would love to understand his mindset with Buchanan on that video and what actually happened. I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it, but why are we right now still receiving video that's showing Higgins on the phone after 1:00 in the morning? Like, who's he talking to? And why don't
Brian Albert is who he's talking to?
Exactly. We will never know because he destroyed his phone and threw it in 2 different dumpsters on a military
Did you
base.
see that live when that happened, when he admitted to that?
Yeah. I was just like, yeah. I mean, I think I knew it going in, though. I think that was something that I had watched some of the pretrial motions, and I feel like they had gone over that, so I kind of knew it was coming.
But he denied it at first. At first, he was like, no, and then he said, yeah. So he lied.
He did. Yeah. And I was going through and watching Brian Albert's testimony, his cross-examination, not his direct, and I was listening to a lawyer analyze it. Whew, that guy, how evasive he was with Jackson. If I were sitting on that jury, I would be like, these guys are lying. Like, I know we have 16 and 13-year-old kids. I know when lies are happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these guys on the stand, Brian Albert, Colin, Higgins, all of them, Jennifer McCabe, none of it rang true, and it all sounded defensive. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the prosecution is going to do to prep these guys this time.
Yeah.
When they get on the stand. And I'm really frustrated about the disclosure, about the prosecutors having access to the defense's disclosure, because I do feel like Jen McCabe was prepped about that whole meeting.
She was.
That makes me so angry.
Yeah.
It's so unfair.
I want to ask you a question about Jen McCabe. I've been making an observation that I haven't shared publicly yet, but I'm going to share it now, which is that all of these people, these free Karen Read people types, they say that Jen McCabe is the architect and puppet master of this whole conspiracy. Meanwhile, there is a former Boston detective who solved the Boston Strangler case and did a bunch of other stuff in his career, who owned the home and is all over all of these stories. He's the one Jen McCabe was talking to. He's the one that Higgins was talking to. He's the one. And I think, and I'm not saying Jen McCabe didn't do bad stuff, because I honestly believe that she did. It's my opinion that she did. But I think this smacks of the kind of puritanical, sexist bullshit you were talking about earlier, where, of course, it's the woman who's the mastermind, evil architect. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. And I'll go a step further about their psychology. I mean, I come from these kinds of families. I don't know if you grew up in New England. Did you grow up in New Hampshire?
I didn't grow up in New Hampshire, but I've been here since 1993, so I'm pretty familiar with the culture.
So I can, when I said they remind me of my uncles, my uncles, this is how they did things. One of my uncles would get pulled over and he wouldn't have his driver's license on him, and he would give my other uncle's name and the cop would buy it. And then my other uncle would get the ticket in the mail. And he'd be like, oh yeah, sorry. What I see happening is something happened inside that house with John. And it might have been with Higgins. It might have been with Colin. It might have been with Brian. I feel like it had to do with Chloe. Whatever happened in that house, they covered it up. And Jen McCabe is that cool girl from high school who is desperate to be relevant, and she's the gossip, and they kind of have to keep her reined in, but at the same time, it's easier to put it on her and for them to take a step back to let Jen take the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I think Brian Albert takes a step back, and I think he is the one who knew how to finagle this whole thing, because he was the one that was calling everybody. He was the one that was showing up at, you know, when the police stopped by to interview Jen, he would just show up, or, you know, all the butt dials between him and Higgins. And he's like the older seasoned cop, and Higgins is his younger brother, and like kind of thing. Like I'm saying that, you know, with like a euphemism, but I do feel like Brian Albert played dumb on the stand because he knew it would get under Alan Jackson's skin, and it did. And I think that he has made a point to remain removed a little bit and let Jen do all the talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think his mind is, they're going to pin it on her, but she's not smart enough to do this.
Yeah.
And they'll figure that out.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, she's the one who deleted the screenshot that said Uncle Brian on her phone. Wasn't it weird that the contact was Uncle Brian, that screenshot?
It was gross.
I think that screenshot, by the way, may have come from one of her kids, because who would call him Uncle Brian, a younger person, right? And then she was the one who deleted all the texts between her and her daughter. She was the one who did this. And the jury said she came off as credible to them. Now, imagine you had no context for this case, knew nothing, actually hadn't been following the media, didn't know about the federal investigation. There is another way to look at her testimony, which is her just being caught out, and she's the kind of person who talks instead of stays silent, right? So you're right about that. Also, can we just say that Brian Albert, in my opinion, is scary. That dude is frightening, right?
Yep.
Former Marine, huge, square-jawed. He has the meanest mug of anybody in this case. And the jury said that they were intimidated by him sitting right across from them when they were hearing closing arguments.
Well, the idea that they would want Turtle Boy kicked out, but that Brian Albert and Jen McCabe are allowed to sit directly across from the jury and stare them down while they are going into closing, none of it makes sense.
No.
And it's small town New England. The cops are always right, and the judges know the cops, and the prosecutors are the cops, and you know, and I think that's why this town is so shook.
Yeah.
It's because they're so used to trusting the cops.
Yes.
That this is breaking their foundation of respect and trust for the cops.
Yeah. And
they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. And I think, too, that there's a big part of the town that's sick of it being run by this small group of people who apparently have been, they've been like the string pullers of everything in the town for years and years and years. And people are tired of them getting away with stuff or whatever. But no, I think you're right. And I've long said, and I still believe it, that this is a corruption case. That's why it's interesting. But also, it is a case that the political lines of it are so strange. Everybody involved is like Trumpy. Everybody involved is like a Republican. The DA,
and I'm on their side.
The DA is a Democrat, and he's that old boy network, Massachusetts, getting reelected a million times despite having no accomplishments, Democrat. And people who are very staunchly back the blue types, when they see this and it's a victim that they can relate to. And granted, it shouldn't have to be a rich white lady, but in this case it is. She has an accent just like theirs. She drives a car just like theirs.
Weird Fall River accent. Though.
Right? Yeah, exactly. With her leaky balloon knot as Proctor said. He's so gross.
Yeah.
That it's, I think, opening the eyes of some more conservative back the blue types to corruption in law enforcement. I think that's important.
I think it's hugely important. And I think that once those lines become blurred, that's when we can sort of step back and go, oh, maybe it's not as black and white as we thought it was. Maybe I'm not always right. Maybe they're not always wrong. You know, I appreciate that it's happening, and that's why I was so worried when I heard about the motion that was coming out about the press today.
Yeah.
I thought for sure she was going to take the cameras out of the courtroom.
I thought the same when I saw that listed.
And I was like, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, if they did that, we would all just be getting Ted Daniels tweets, which is like every 15 minutes he tweets something, and I'm like, come on, Ted. Get on it. Or Christina Rex, the most credulous. Like, she's just doing her job. I know she's a TV reporter.
Yeah,
she's got to.
I know.
But it's like these tweets. I mean, she probably is more prolific than him. But I'm like, you're tweeting about that, but not this thing that just happened.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Clickbait.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that people aren't making more of the fact that Proctor was driving drunk in a police car with Kevin Albert on the Cape. What were they investigating together? They come from two different agencies.
They were investigating that bar.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things that have been, said that are big things that it's like the normalization of all the little misconduct in a way is almost more upsetting because it's like that person just committed perjury and then changed their story right in front of you. But we're not reporting on it because the same day some other huge bombshelly thing came out. And I'm like,
right.
The little things are important. It's important that Buchanan committed perjury. It's important that Higgins committed perjury. Those things are important.
They are. And, you're talking about Proctor and Kevin Albert driving around drunk. How about everybody that was at the waterfall?
Right.
Who drove
cops.
home?
Cops and wives of cops.
They were all cops and wives of cops and kids of cops in the cars. Like Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe driving those kids home. And I'm sorry. I know it happens. And I know it's New England. And I mean, you can drive without your seatbelt still.
Yes. Except that your car doesn't let you drive without your seatbelt, but you can legally drive without your seatbelt in New Hampshire.
The last time I was in New Hampshire with someone who was not from New Hampshire, I explained to them, you don't have to have car insurance and you don't have to wear your seatbelt if you don't feel like it. It's up to you, live free or die. It's that's in Massachusetts as well. We all know the cops go out and they have a few drinks at the bar and then they get they get themselves home. But how many times has it been brought up that Chris Albert, who hit and ran, right?
He killed somebody with his car.
Killed somebody.
And
drunk.
then he went on the run for 60 days.
Right. There's Kevin Albert, who's a police officer who has no idea where his gun is because he was so drunk with the other Massachusetts State police officer. And it's just like every single person in this case, you can bring up Karen's blood alcohol level every single time you want. But if you're not also mentioning that the other 20 people that were involved in this night were not knee walking drunk and driving around Canton, like, come on, you guys.
Yeah. So that brings me to the final thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
I have always contended that I don't think this was a premeditated murder or anything like that. I think this was a stupid thing that happened because people were drunk. A little scuffle that escalated quickly, perhaps, something like that, or even an accident in the house. But I actually think it was a little scuffle that escalated quickly. The dog got involved, as dogs do. When there's conflict or something between people, a dog will just run right in there, especially like a German Shepherd. I think that his body being on the lawn is up for debate as to why. I think the theory that they wanted it to look like he'd been hit by a plow is actually a pretty good one. And I think that the idea that car was there, that Lucky Lochran said that Ford Escape or whatever it was there in the middle of the night. Ford Edge, yeah. That maybe that was a conversation where we're going to move it. And then Lucky came along and they were like, we can't, you know what I mean? But then they had the idea maybe that it was plow. I don't know. But I think that he was put on the lawn for a reason, or everyone was just real drunk and they're like, just put him out there. He'll sleep it off and he'll wake up later. But they say that he had vomit all over himself inside of his shirt. So at some point he vomited, which shows that he was out. He had this head injury. And I really encourage folks who, don't think this might be true to look at that part of the evidence. What are your thoughts about what may have happened?
I agree with you for the most part. I think that something happened in the basement. I don't know if Colin was involved in it. I do believe Higgins was there, and I do believe Brian Albert was there, and Colin was possibly there. I think the story of Colin having it out for John O'Keefe because of the whole drinking on his lawn, blah, 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 that whole thing, I don't necessarily buy that. I mean, that kid is sort of he's a thug, that kid. He's a thug, but he's also like a pick-me, you know what I mean? And but I think something must have happened. But the thing is, these are all men from New England who drink themselves silly probably almost every day. And words were said, somebody got shoved, the dog got involved, and John hit his head. Now, do I think they carried him outside? Maybe. We don't really know how he got outside because at that point, there wasn't enough snow to be able to see drag marks or see, 5 sets of feet coming from the basement or whatever it might have been. But somehow they put him out there. The one thing that's always confused me is that Ford Edge was not parked there all night, and then it was.
Right. That was somebody coming over to help with something, in my opinion.
It was Brian Albert's Ford Edge, wasn't it?
It may have been, but a lot of people in that family have Ford Edges. When they came up, there was a Ford Edge.
Ford Edges.
Yeah, when it came up, they somebody on Twitter or whatever posted all the public registrations and everyone involved in this. Yeah. It was like 5 people had Ford Edges.
And at that time in Massachusetts, most of the police had Ford Edge.
Really?
That's what their official unmarked car was.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
So I've always been really confused. I would assume. I mean, how many cars did Brian Higgins have? I mean, why was that car parked there? And why did they think that no one would notice it?
Why did they keep trying to place Brian Higgins' Jeep there? They kept trying to place his Jeep there when he may have had the silver Ford Edge. Who knows? They kept trying to place... The thing about Colin that sticks out to me, and always has, and honestly, Turtle Boy told me this, and it's never left my mind. From the beginning, all the adults were saying he wasn't in the house. Why do they care so much? If nothing happened to John in the house, why do they care so much whether he was there or not? Why does it matter?
I mean, the thing is, the problem is that we are never going to know, but the point of the matter is it's enough reasonable doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also proof that they didn't thoroughly investigate this, which is the thing I think I'm most upset about. And I'm really frustrated that I want to know where that neighbor's footage is.
It doesn't exist. It never existed. It was a lie.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
You don't think it was destroyed?
I think that there was footage that showed nothing, and that the cops were told by someone like Chris Albert or whatever that there was footage, and then they shared it immediately to try to get her to plead guilty to the manslaughter charge. Like, that's what they do. They leak stuff, they do whatever to try to put pressure. And thank God she had a good lawyer. Like, thank God. But the footage doesn't exist. Also, there's no proof that there was glass in John O'Keefe's sweater. That's something they just keep saying. And also, taillights made of plastic, not glass.
Right.
There's no proof of that. They never put anything in evidence that shows that for sure. They just say things. And I think the ring footage, and if you're talking about the neighbor's ring footage, that's what I'm talking about. But where's the temple ring footage? Where's all the critical library times all missing that would have exonerated her? And that's wild. Just finally, I know I keep saying finally, but this is for real. Kevin thinks, he's very optimistic and thinks that, and I don't necessarily not believe him, but there was a tipster who tipped off Yannetti to this whole thing early on. The guy who made the call now denies doing it, so whatever. But I guess he has a kid that's the age of all the kids that were at that party and knows them. Do you think that it is plausible that some young person went to an adult, or maybe someday will go to somebody else?
I hope so, if that's the case. And I can't imagine if a kid was at that party and overheard or saw or was told by somebody, it's not going to be kept a secret for a while. I mean, it'll get out. But how do we believe them because of all the bullshit that's sort of come along afterward?
Right.
I will never understand how Lally tried to make such a big deal about that recording of Karen talking to Buchanan when she's like, we're all in on the joke, right? I don't understand why they thought that made her look guilty.
Yeah.
To me, that made her look innocent.
Yes.
When she's like, he got hit in the head, my car has a cracked taillight, or we're all in on the joke. What is wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
To me, I still make it make sense to me. Like, make Lally's argument in that case make sense to me.
Yeah. No, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I could talk all day.
Well, Mel Barrett, how can folks find your content, and where can they listen? Where can they find you online, etc.?
Well, you can listen to the In Between podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. The show was originally released on Grab Bag, so I want to make sure to give them a shout out.
Grab Bag Collab, our good friends, yeah.
Grab Bag Collab, we love them. They've been super supportive of my content, and so then they gave me a general feed, which I'm super excited about. So you can listen to the In Between podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and then I am on TikTok at Jack of All Trades DC. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Those are all Real Mel Barrett or the In Between Pod. Oh, and Blue Sky. I got off of the
X.
site.
I'm only on the X because of this stupid case. Because that's where some stuff breaks. That's where like people gossip, and the gossip, it's like a lot of it's bullshit. Obviously bullshit, but some of the gossip is interesting. And so like that's literally the only reason I'm still on X is for this case. So if anyone sees me there and is like, why is she here? That is why. That is why.
We'll come to Blue Sky soon.
I am on Blue Sky.
All right.
I do normal stuff on Blue Sky, and I troll for Karen Reed gossip on the Twitter.
That's how Toby and I started talking. We started talking on Blue Sky. I was very happy that he reached out.
All right. Well, Mel, thank you so much for coming on the Readathon. I so appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was amazing. Anytime. I'll talk about it all day long.
Partners in Crime Media.